and sit down.
Boom, and that boom, you know what that boom means, Trinity?
Shakalaka?
That's right. Welcome to Couch Live, everybody. This is Dope and Dharma, and this is the Couch Live version of Dope and Dharma. The one we do for who, Trinity?
For WOKB, 1680 AM or 100.7 FM.
That's right. If you're in the Orlando area, because obviously
Correct.
if you're in Pittsburgh, it's not really working for you.
What, really? You had to pick Pittsburgh, really?
I wonder why. Maybe because I'm already have football fever, Trinity, even though it's
it's
still,
coming.
Oh,
it's coming.
It's coming. It's coming.
It's coming, man.
It's already almost August, and I'm already going to a game in August, man. Preseason. Again, my beautiful daughters for Father's Day, last Father's Day, gave me preseason tickets to go watch the Steelers game. So
nice. Don't we not to derail us horribly, but don't we open up against each other? I think we do. If it's not an opening, I think it's soon. So
you are the one team I don't want to play.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good right now. Like I've seen some of the off season. I like where we're at. Just gonna put that out there.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah.
If you can do that good with Mr. Irrelevant, I mean, what else can you do?
Yeah,
I'm a little afraid of you guys. I got to be honest.
I think we open up against each other, though. I think isn't that opening game?
I think it's opening game. I think it's opening game. This time I can complain because I remember last time you were complaining about opening game with your Notre Dame. So this time I can complain about Pittsburgh's opening game.
Yeah, well, Notre Dame opened up against number 2 Ohio State. Why would you do that? It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, I digress. Go ahead.
Exactly. All right. So this is Couch Live, folks. We talk about family issues. We talk about personal issues. We talk about addiction, recovery, mental illness, mental health. We've been doing this for the past 23 years. We're in our 24th year, actually. We're in our 24th year of the Couch Live. Thank you all for joining us. Today, of course, Mr. Shaw's over there, and he's the producer over there at the studios at WOKB 1680, 100.7 FM in the Central Florida area. And I'm the street certified dope doctor here with you, Louis Delgado. And of course, that's Trinity Phillips, who here on the other microphone, the Dharma guy. What's up, brother?
What up? What up?
Had a nice little vacation.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Back now.
Yeah, I didn't, but yeah.
Well, you had a vacation from me.
I was vicariously living through your photos.
Yeah,
they look like you had a great time. So.
A lot of sunsets, man. But dude, we saw the most beautiful sunsets. Yeah. The sun has been amazing. Whatever if people want to talk about climate change, if that's climate change, give me more of it. Because climate change makes beautiful sunsets. That's what I'm going to say.
Sure. It's a good headline to have, I guess.
That's right. That's my, throw more garbage in the world, people. It makes beautiful sunsets. No, I remember when I was a kid, they said, it's unfortunate, but the most beautiful sunsets are because of pollution. You used to hear that all the time. Right?
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but I was out in the middle of nowhere, beautiful land where there's no pollution. And let me tell you something. Those sunsets were phenomenal. So I think they were just saying that. I think the oil company, Asarco in El Paso, was just saying that just so that we're okay with the oil refinery.
The only thing I remember as a kid when it comes to pollution was the Indian with the tear coming down.
Oh,
even though he wasn't actually an Indian, I guess. But
I remember that.
Yeah.
Well,
somebody threw a can out of the car, and it showed him, and a tear comes down. So and he was supposed to be an Indian, but I guess it came out afterwards that he wasn't actually an Indian.
He wasn't native?
Mm-mm.
As if we all aren't.
Yeah.
We're all Martians is what we
are.
Right. Anyway, so let's get into it, Trinity. I wanted to talk about excuses today. For no other reason. I mean, not inspired by anything in particular. I wish I was inspired by something in particular, by the way, so that I can get into this real passionately. We'll see where it takes us.
I mean, is there a day that we don't run into some excuse either through us or by proxy? I mean, come on. They're pretty prevalent daily.
And I think it's the one thing that we all use on a regular basis.
Yes.
We may not always call what we're doing excuses, but we all do it.
Because it feels so good.
Right. So I'm going to ask you question number one is what is it? What is an excuse? And this is where if you're sitting right now, you heard me just say that, and you go, wait a minute, Louis, I don't give excuses. I'm just real. I just tell the truth. I just tell it how it is. I'm an honest person. Whatever you want to call it. Let's define it. What is an excuse? Because to the person making it or saying it, they rarely view it as an excuse. Like when I'm actually making an excuse,
right,
and I'm not really being conscientious of evaluating what I'm doing or saying.
Right.
It sounds like I'm just giving you
sure.
the truth. I'm just telling you what happened. I'm just giving you a reason, not an excuse. I'm giving you a reason, right? But to the other person, especially if they find harm with what you just did, or if it's because you didn't show up, you didn't do something they were expecting you to do, so now they're frustrated with you. No matter what you say, I don't care what the reason is. It's all excuses,
Right.
right?
Yeah, I so right off the top of my head, the definition that comes to mind for me for an excuse is a justification for something, be it valid or not. Whether it's valid or not, it's a justification for X, like whatever it was, what you did, what you didn't do. It's a justification for that. And sometimes they're valid and sometimes they're not so valid.
Right. Interesting. Because I was thinking more along the lines like an explanation of why something did or did not get done with the expectation that the other person forgive you.
Well, that's a very long definition.
It just came to my head too.
It was really long,
but it sounds short to me. Really,
that sounds like I read that somewhere. Yeah. No, yeah. Do your thing.
You want me to put it on a napkin or something?
Right, a Hallmark card. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think we're kind of saying similar things, right? Explanation, justification. Yeah. I think it's basically whenever something didn't line up to what was expected,
right?
It's our response to that. Instead of just saying, "Yeah, I didn't get it done," or no, I didn't do it. It's just we go one step further and we need to have a story behind it. Right. Well, I didn't do it because, and it's anything that comes after because is going to be the excuse, right? And like I said, I do think somewhere in this discussion we need to address the differences, right? But like sometimes there are valid reasons for why we were unable to accomplish things. I mean, it's just it is what it is. And but then there are other times where, yeah, man, maybe we're avoiding a little bit of accountability and just trying to brush off something because we feel guilt or shame.
Right. And don't we all like want to tell the reason? Don't we like want to tell the story? I mean, it's just really hard to, walk in somewhere late and they say, "Hey, you're late." And you go, "Yeah." I mean, right?
Yeah, as I've gotten older, I've grown to enjoy that part of things more.
What the one-word responses?
Just the lack of explanation or justification. Like as I've gotten older, not in every aspect, of course, and not with every person, but in my spiritual growth, I've learned sometimes that less is more, and so I've learned sometimes if somebody says something, just be like, "Yeah, I wasn't able to do it." And if they ask me why, then I'll pontificate on why I didn't. But I don't offer that up anymore. I just kind of like, yeah, I mean, I didn't get it done.
But Trinity, you did it two different ways right there. When you said I wasn't able to get it
Either
done,
it depends on what it is. Yeah,
that is an excuse. Whereas the second time you didn't do it as an excuse. I didn't do it. Like I didn't do it is not an excuse. That's a fact.
Correct. Or I didn't get it done is the same thing.
As soon as no, you said I didn't have time, or you put a reason.
Sure.
So as soon as you say that, I think because to me that's one of the biggest ones people use. Like I didn't have time to do it. And it's like, oh, I didn't know that you were shorted on time. I thought we all have the same amount of time.
No, my day's not 24 hours. Like is yours? Like mine's.
Yeah. It's our job to kind of figure out what to do within that 24-hour period. Right? Like that's and we've had a lot of practice. It's not like it's new to us.
Sure.
But some people talk about these 24 hours as if they're the only ones that have like a smaller 24 hours, right?
Right.
Look, even the thunder. You hear the thunder out there, right?
I do not.
I'm getting God's approval right now.
But I have thunder over here too. It's
me too.
Crazy day.
Yeah, like right now, God's giving me approval. He's going, "Yes, Louis, preach, tell them all."
Stop. That's one way of looking at it.
Like when people say, I couldn't get to church because I had it. He's like, "Stop making excuses. I don't have time to pray. Stop making excuses."
Right.
That's what he's doing right now up in the sky. So today's show is sponsored by God. So that's kind of happening, like where people like to make excuses. To kind of give an explanation or a justification, just like you just said, some sort of justification, and to somehow alleviate, I guess, the response back, right?
Well, wouldn't it be shame and guilt? Like that's the first thing that pops in my head is
I want to feel less guilt. Yeah, I want to feel less guilt. My wife
whether real or not,
guilt.
right? Whether real or not. Like even if somebody's not making you feel guilty, you might feel guilty yourself.
Right. And you might not even be aware if that's what you're feeling, and that's why you do it. Always giving some sort of story along with everything.
Right.
But it is interesting how one of the things that people say, I just didn't have enough time. Instead of, what I like saying, and I love the response that I get from people when I say it. I'll say, I didn't prioritize that, so I didn't do it.
Yeah.
And when you say it, they're like, it's almost like the look in their faces.
How dare you?
Yeah, that was honest. But at the same time, it's like, ooh, you didn't prioritize me or prioritize this,
right.
And it's like, yeah, it wasn't my priority. I somehow, in other words, I didn't put it as a list of priority. No disrespect to you, but it was like number 5, and there just kept on being other things that got in the way.
Yeah.
Right.
My time management today sucked.
Right. Because the one I'm great at is, of course, getting back to people. I'm so ADHD, like squirrels, like all the time. So my problem is I didn't keep giving a reminder to myself over and over again that I was going to get back to you. So I kept thinking I just would, right? So I keep relying on something that just never works for me, but I still rely on it.
So what would happen if we were honest about that, though, right? Like what would happen? What would the world look like if instead of excuses, we did say things like,
I didn't want to talk to you?
Well, I didn't prioritize it today. Or, you know what? I didn't, I kept procrastinating and I apparently did it too much. Like I kept thinking I'll do it later and later never came and I just screwed up. Like what would the world look like if we addressed things that way? I wonder.
A lot more honest. A lot more honest, because I tell you, when I say it like that, when I say that, it helps me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because first of all, I think when you give an excuse, what you forget is that since we all do it, we all know when you say that, how unreal or untrue that excuse is.
Yeah.
Most of the times. I'm not saying there's not some valid reasons. I'm saying,
of course,
I'm talking about the 80% of the time where we give an excuse where it's just fluff, right? Yeah. And we're trying to sell it, but we're selling it to somebody who has used that exact same excuse before. So they know the only reason they're accepting it is because they're giving you a pass.
Right.
But when you keep going on, they almost want to say, I already accepted it. Let's move forward. Because now you're trying to make me, you're just saying I'm stupid, and I don't want to keep hearing.
Feels good though, doesn't it? Though it feels good when you got like a really good like excuse. When you get an excuse locked in the chamber, man, like a good one. You know what I mean? When you've got like an excuse that nobody can touch.
Yeah.
That like you can pull it out, slap it on the table, and like that's it. And you're full of it, right? Because that absolutely had no reason, no bearing on what you did or didn't do, right? Like I don't know, man. Like a car accident, let's say, right?
Right.
If it was like a little bump, like somebody just bumped you at a stoplight, literally nothing happened.
Right.
You know darn well that you could call anybody, but I had a car accident today. I can't come into work. And nobody's going to say anything other than, oh my gosh, are you okay? Yeah, take all the time you need. I'll see you tomorrow.
Right.
Like, so you got that in your back pocket. And it's technically true. You did get into a minor accident.
Right.
But realistically speaking, you could totally get back in a car, drive to work, and go do your thing. Because you're not going to go to the hospital. You're going to go home and hang out with your friends or do whatever.
Right.
You just know that is the golden goose of an excuse that nobody can, and it feels good when you got one of those, right? Like it does. Like
it's like a hurricane moment.
Yeah,
hurricane's coming. You don't have to do anything.
Yes, dude. Let's just be honest.
Days
it feels good to just bam.
I see what you're saying.
Like And what are you gonna say? You can't. Right. You are not going to tell the person that just told you that they had a car accident that they have to come to work. You're not going to say anything other than, "Oh, I'm so sorry." Right. So they feel good. Now, granted, they're not good for us, but they feel good. Let's be honest.
Well, there's a lot of those moments, and I think there's moments when you're giving an excuse to somebody that they want to call you out on it, but you put something like serious in there, like a death,
yeah,
or your child, right? It's like what was the one thing that you had told me before? I don't want to out you to anybody that you've used this for, Trinity, but you say one beautiful thing is when you have little kids, you can always use the kids.
Yeah, of course.
I got to take care of the kids.
Absolutely.
I got to pick up the kids. I got to feed the kids. Whatever the kids, right?
Of course. That's a get out of jail free card, no matter what.
Right.
And because it's true all the time. No, but I mean, for those of us with little kids, I think that's why it's such an easy excuse to use, because they do consume like your entire day. But that is an excuse that it's hard to what are you going to tell somebody? No, like don't father your kids. Don't pick them up. You can't.
Going with the kid thing, I want to remind everybody when someone calls you and leaves a message or something like that, and you don't get back to them until the next day, and you tell and you say it's I just got cut up, I got too busy. What if it was your kid calling? See, we all know that if your kid called you, you'd have called him back. We all know that.
Yeah.
Right. That's why when people Trinity, people try to give me excuses. Louis, they always start off with, they're very respectful. And people treat me very, very good in this world. They'll always start off with, I know you're real busy. Like they give me the excuse. I know you're busy, but when you get a chance, can you please? And I'll be like, brother, we're all busy. You're just as busy as I am. I'm just forgetful. I always admit I'm forgetful. I'm ADHD. I see squirrels and I get distracted. Those are facts.
Right.
Those are facts. So they're half excuses, half real reasons, and we'll get into that. But those are real facts that happen, because I don't want you to give me an excuse over something that I've been trying to change my entire life, which is I don't want you to feel ignored. I don't want you to feel that you reached out to me and I didn't get right back to you. Because if it was my kid, it wouldn't matter. I'd respond. Right. So here are the people that no matter what, I can assure you, and I'm holding myself accountable here, I can assure you no matter what, if you called me, texted me, you're always going to get a response. My business partners know this. Trinity, you know it. If you reach out to me, I'm getting back to you.
Sure.
Business partners, family members, right?
Yeah.
That's about it. Right?
Yeah. My list is pretty much the same.
Yeah, business partners. If our money's tied together, our business is tied together, or if you're a family member, boom. No matter what, we're getting back to each other.
Yeah, I have a shield that those people will always get through.
Right.
Like I will stop meetings if I need to answer certain calls. Like there's the way I think of it is like if I go train somebody, there's only certain names that will pop up on my phone that I will stop the training session to answer.
No matter what.
Right. Because those people don't call unless it's something important typically.
Right.
So I know that like, all right, if they're trying, they know that I'm busy doing something. So if they're reaching out to me, it's got to be something important.
Right. Yeah. I can't think of a time where my wife or my mother or my kids called and it went the next day and go,
oh, dude, my wife would, there's no way I could.
Right. Now I've accidentally gone hours where I was like, oh my God, I thought I called you, babe. I'm sorry. I've done that because I do get distracted. I do.
Sure.
So that's a fact, but it doesn't go too long is what I'm saying.
Right.
Yeah. Where some people what was it that you joke about? Like the first time we tried to communicate, it took you a year to get.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. It took me a year of trying to get a hold of you before you and I actually spoke.
Right. But since we became friends, it's never taken you more than not even an hour, I would say. I mean,
it's pretty good now.
Yeah. You're one of those people that if you reach out to me, boom.
Yeah.
I see it. You know what I mean? So anyway, so that's what it is. Now here's another one though. Trinity, why do we make them?
So for me, I think that's an interesting one, right? So I think for me personally, I can only talk about myself, right? So when I think back to excuses, it's typically guilt or shame.
Okay.
Either I feel shameful that I deep down know that I didn't prioritize it the way I should have, or I just didn't take it seriously, whatever. I didn't put my full effort or whatever it might be. And I don't want to feel shameful that I didn't live up to the standard that I exude. Or it's guilt. I feel guilty that I didn't come through, that I wasn't able to live up to my own standards. Maybe. Like if I tell I'm a firm believer. I was raised with the old principle of, as a man, your word is kind of what you have. And so if I give my word, I'm going to do something, then it's going to get done. Like hell or high water, I'll make sure it happens. However, there are times when life just kind of steps in the way and I just wasn't able to do it for whatever reason. And if it was, that's where I mean by guilt and shame, right? So if I was unable to overcome it because I just legitimately there was no way around it, then I feel guilty. I feel guilty that I didn't live up to the standard that I set for myself, that I'm going to do this no matter what if I said I'm going to. Right. So it feels like a defeated, like, oh, I let myself down and you. And then the other half of it would be if I know I didn't do it, then I feel shame that, like, oh man, like I got to tell this person I wasn't able to do what they asked of me, knowing full well that if I really would have tried harder, I could have actually gotten it done. So I personally think it's between guilt and shame.
You seem to be one of those people that you like. It seems like you like to do things right away as soon as you hear about it.
Were you that? If I procrastinate, it won't get done.
Is that what it is? I don't know. Did you always have that? Because you seem to be like one of those kids that, like, the moment you got your homework, even though it was due next week, you probably got it done right away, just so you didn't worry about it all week.
Yeah, I didn't want to deal with it. Like well, if we're talking about school, school was like a nuisance to me. Like I didn't. It was annoying. Like it wasn't challenging per se. Mm-hmm. So I didn't want to have to like drag it out for like a whole week. So sometimes they would give us like a packet that we're going to do all week long. Yeah. I would immediately get it done. And then while everybody else was struggling and stressing about it all week long, I was done. Like I didn't want to deal with it all day. Like I don't like to take an hour to do something that should only take me 15 minutes, kind of a thing.
Yeah. I knew you were that kid, man. I could tell by the way you handle tasks. Yeah. Because we'll talk about something and I'll say, all right, you do that and I'll do this. And then like within 15 minutes, you'd have done it. And I'd be like, geez.
I just don't want it hanging over my head all day. And not to mention, I will forget, man. Like I'll get caught up in other things and just totally forget, because I am the procrastinator too, right? Because as many times as I got the homework done the night of, or that I got it, if my mom is watching this, she'll be the first to attest to it as well. There were many a days when I had a project that I knew was due whatever, and I just knew I could knock it out quickly. So instead of working on it for 3 months, I would wait till like the day before and I would just put it together as quickly as I could and turn it in. And so if somebody like that, I think that's also the deciding factor.
Yeah.
If it's the person that means something to me, or if it's an activity or a task that means something to me, I'll do it immediately and get it done. If it's something that's not high up on my importance list, in other words, if it's a person that I don't consider, part of that inner circle, or if it's an activity that I really don't feel like doing, I'll procrastinate until I know I have to, and then I'll do it. But if it's somebody, it's like if my wife asked me to do something because she's important to me and I don't want her to ever think that I don't value her or whatever, if she asked me, like, because it's funny because she'll do that. She'll say, perfect example, on the way here, she asked me to check the mail. I think she's got something in mail, and our mailbox is like not at the house. It's like a centralized area. Mm-hmm. She's like, hey, you don't have to do it today or tonight or whatever. Just when you can you stop by and get the mail? I'm expecting something. And I was like, yeah, sure. After we're done here, the first thing I'm doing after I upload and edit, I'm going to the mailbox to get the mail, period. Like, even though I could totally do it tomorrow, I know she wants it done. It takes me like 5 minutes to go do. I'll just knock it out because I don't know. She means something to me, so I want her to know that. Now, I have other things that I need to do that I'll probably put off for another 2 or 3 days. So it kind of just depends, where, like, there's been many times where you've asked me, you'll ask me to get something done. Well, I value our friendship and our business relationship. I value what we've built. So if it's doable, I'll do it right now. Just get it done.
I really admire that, man. I'm missing that. I'm missing that little piece,
right?
Because I am one of those. I am the ultimate pinch hitter. I could be on the bench snoozing, and they'll say, "Louis, get in the game." It's the bottom of the ninth, and 2 outs. We need a run, and I feel like, okay, I'm that guy. Yeah, just put me in when you need me, coach.
Right.
When you want to hit, just put me in. And until then, up until that point, just I'm not even going to be bothered with it. I'm there. I'm playing tic-tac-toe with the kid next to me. It's like I'm not even involved. That's how I feel like I am lots of times. I'm like somewhere else, and then it's like all of a sudden, like the microphone turns on and boom.
Right.
Okay, I'm ready to do this. What are we doing? You know what I mean? Like, it's a weird, but it's more of a sickness than a gift. It's more of a sickness, because I'd rather have what you're talking about. I'd rather want to knock it out. And I love the reasons you use: respecting the other person, showing value to the other person. Because when you don't do it, or when I don't do it, I feel like the other person feels less value to me.
Right.
I really do. I feel like I've hurt them in a way that cause them harm. And there's people out there watching this that know. I can name a couple of people in my head, and I won't because they haven't talked to me in years because there was something they asked me to do, and I delayed too long and never got it done, and I haven't heard from them since. They're not watching this, so I know I've lost people because of that. Because I get distracted, and they probably feel like, oh, he doesn't value me or he doesn't care, and
right.
that's not true. I want to do that, but it's a sickness that I struggle with handling, and you would think just by being aware you could stop it, and that's what we'll talk about in the next segment is how to stop it, because that's probably the most difficult thing in the world. But right now, while we're still talking about why we make them, I want to ask you this: why do people even ask? Why do people ask for the excuse? I mean, because do you have this happen to you? Like when people go like, well, why didn't you do it? Like, because when you just try to be honest, yeah, I just didn't do it. Yeah. Or I forgot or whatever. You give them the reason and then they go, yeah, but why? You're like, oh, so you want the excuse because I gave you the reason.
Right.
You don't like the reason, but now you're asking me to kind of try to color it up just so you could then go, that's your excuse. You're not, because now you're not going to like what I say.
Yeah, I think
isn't the fact is that I didn't do it and that's it. Can you just punish me now? Can you just get on me now? Let's cut right through it. Why are you asking me for a story? But people do that all the time. They go, why? Tell me why. Like parents have an annoying way of doing it. Not my parents, but I'm talking about lots of parents, and I'm a parent, so I'm sure I've done it too. Why?
Oh, I know I've done it. Yeah. That's actually so the only time I can remember, and I could be forgetting, but right off the top of my head, the only instances where I can remember where that was the dynamic was when there was a power imbalance, when there was one person of authority and the other person not.
Okay.
I don't remember it ever happening from an equal stance. I'm sure it has, but the ones that stick out in my head is authority, and I've been on both sides of that, right? Like I've been when somebody of an authority figure, be it a boss, be it a parent, whatever, when you've done something or not done something you should have, then the why, well, why'd you do this? What were you thinking? And then I've been on the other end of that with my own kids, even where I'm like, dude, why did you not do this? What was the thought process? Walk me through it. And thinking from the person who's asking, yeah, could they really come up with something in that moment that's gonna, negate what I'm about to say to them? Maybe, but probably not.
Right.
It depends on what it is. Because I've had moments like with my daughter, even where I've asked her something, and like genuinely, like before I clamp down, I want to hear her side of things. And there's been some times where she's told me her side. I'm like, all right, fair enough. Like I can appreciate that.
Right.
Moving forward, let's do it this way. But I can understand, because I don't want to punish her for being her own person. Like I don't want to. I'm not trying to smash her individuality. Like I want her to problem solve. So when she does a good problem solve, I want to reward that by not clamping down on her. Having said that, there are some things where I've talked to her and there's nothing that's going to come out of her mouth that's about to stop the lecture she's about to give.
Right.
Right. And that's my job as a parent, though. That's how I explain it to her. It's like, look, man, my job as a dad is I got to clock in now and I've got to teach you this moment. And then you're probably not going to want to hear it. I don't even want to say it, but it's my job. So sit down and let's have it out.
Right.
But yeah, usually some sort of an authority imbalance is typically when I've experienced those moments.
Right. And I think it's important as a parent is to utilize those teachable moments, but you have to use it in a way that's explanatory rather than punitive in nature, because the punishment is that they failed you.
Yeah, the disappointment.
If you have a good relationship with your kid, you don't have to do a lot of flair to hurt them. They just have to feel that you disappointed them, right? And the key in this whole thing is that you have to have a good relationship with your kid.
Yeah.
If you don't have a good relationship with your kid, that's a whole other conversation.
But if you have it,
yeah, it's a different show. But if you have a good relationship with your kid, the fact that, look, you disappointed me because you made a choice to not call me or to not text me or not respond to me or not do this or to not do what I asked you to do. I told you, please get it done. And you didn't. So you made that choice. And I just want to let you know that when you make a choice like that, this is the way I'm interpreting it. All right. So, and when you tell them the way you're interpreting it, maybe hopefully they can also identify with a moment in their life where they interpreted that same message, maybe from something you did or something a friend did. Because I know my kids love to do that. Well, I felt like that when you did this. And then that's a perfect moment to, instead of defending it, you go, exactly. I did that to you and I apologize. And you're right. I shouldn't have done that. So you understand what you just did that. And then they go, yeah, boom, moment done. I love that when they try to flip it, because intelligent kids will try to do that. Manipulative and intelligent kids will always try to flip it. Right. The key point for an adult is to allow the flip and then go admit and then get them to admit. Boom.
Yep.
We've sealed that up. What were you going to say? You were smiling about something. You were thinking something.
Oh, no, I was just laughing because, that it doesn't always work. Well, like my daughter is the slowest, creature on the face of the planet. And so I've told her numerous times, like, look, man, when you we got to leave at a certain point and you're not really, I don't see any pep in your step, essentially. What it says to me is you don't respect my time or anybody else's. Like, that's how it's interpreted. So I need you to understand that. But, yeah, I mean, she's 13, man. So it takes a while for that one to sink in.
There's a group of people pushing that. So I've said it many times on the show. I have ADHD. Okay, diagnosed ADHD. I've lived with it all my life. Survived it. I'm good.
You're a survivor.
I'm a survivor.
I'm a survivor.
The people around me are the more survivors to me. I'm just like,
yeah.
But so this issue with time is a symptom of ADHD, right?
Sure.
So I had a military father, so that was never going to be an issue. So time with me, as much as the rest of my personality says I'm going to be late, not usually. Usually, 30 minutes early is to me on time. So my head is really geared towards that, right? However, I do know that that's a symptom. Do you know, Trinity, people are trying to take that symptom of issues with time, disrespecting time, unable to be on time, and they're calling it time blindness, and they're trying to make that its own disorder as a protected class.
Oh my God. No, I did not know that.
People probably listening right now that feel that should be its own disorder and it should be protected like other ailments, like other mental health issues.
The way I
time blindness, because that's the terminology they use.
This has actually been a topic I've discussed before. Okay. And the best perspective I think that I've heard that really kind of helped me respond to it in a much more skillful manner was, and I've noticed similarities. I noticed the trend, so there might be something to it. I don't know, but a lot of the people that I know that are really bad at time management usually excel in some sort of artistic form. I've noticed that a lot, right? And the connection, I heard somebody label it one time as artist brain. And like my wife, for instance, is horrible with time management. Horrible. Like just the worst I've ever seen in my life. However, I like her mind works in such a way she can look at like a pile of crafts, and because she doesn't have any restraints, she can create something beautiful in her mind and actually apply it and turn it whatever. And so that same kind of the way her brain works also just doesn't recognize the constraints of a time and a clock. They're like, hey, we got 15 minutes, you got to leave here, right? So for me, that's the way I've chosen to look at it over the years, and it kind of makes sense, right? Because I'm very good at analytical time, that, and the other. And if you give me a certain task, I can get it done. But if you were to put, because we've done it, like I don't get overwhelmed very easily in my life. There's many situations you could put me in, and I'll be fine. I'll figure it out.
Right.
Except for arts and crafts. You put a bunch of arts and crafts or a painting or something in front of me and tell me to do whatever that thing is, I get overwhelmed and frustrated. I don't know what I'm doing. It sucks. I have this picture in my head. I can't make it happen. I get irritated. Like it's just not a fun moment for me, and so that's just how our brains work differently. Yeah. So I don't necessarily call it better or worse. That's not to say, though, I would push back against this idea of blindness, meaning you can't actually overcome it, because you can. It takes effort and a desire, right. But like almost anything behavioral in this world, we could overcome with enough, right. Desire and repetition.
Yeah, I struggle with allowing it to be called a disorder, and I think you're being very generous, Trinity. I think you're being very generous to Angel. Dana doesn't even have that reasoning because Dana is not artistic in nature. She's just late. Yes.
Yeah.
You know, Dana, I always told Dana, man, it's exactly 15 minutes to everything. I mean,
Yeah.
exactly 15 minutes. I said, so it's not like it fluctuates.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like it goes to 30 even. Hell, it doesn't even go to 16 minutes.
My wife and both my daughters are the worst in time. But my mother trained me the same way your dad trained you. My mom, on time is early.
Amen.
You know what I mean? Like if 30 minutes, you tell me, you've seen it. Right. You tell me 1:30, right. I'm there at like 1 o'clock, 1:15 at the latest. Right. If I get there at 1:30, I feel late. Right. Like even if I walked in, if you told me like, hey, be here by the time curtains go up at such and such time, if I walked in, took 3 steps and the curtains showed up, I'm late. Like, that's unacceptable in my world. Right. That's how I was raised. But yeah, both my daughters and my wife are just not that.
Right. And people, if you're still running just as late in 2023 as you did in 1990 something, we now have these apps that have the traffic, and it tells us exactly when we should arrive. It tells us if I want to get here at this time, what time should I leave? Like Waze will tell you, oh, these are heavy traffic periods. And it'll try to, even the apps try to help you navigate your procrastination. Right? It'll say, I got a better route for you since you clearly didn't manage your time properly. Right? So we have no excuse to be late somewhere other than we simply, for some reason, thought we were going to get every green light, that there wasn't going to be any traffic. Because anybody that ever comes to me and says it was traffic, it was like, yeah, every day there's traffic. Yeah. What time is it? Where did you travel from? What road did you take? Yeah. Right. That has to be. That is a learning. That is a
sure.
That's a learned thing. And if you've lived in Orlando and you still think I-4 doesn't have traffic,
yeah, good luck with that.
I don't. You're not the fastest learner at that point. You know what I mean? I gotta ask you, like, does it take this long for everything that you learn?
Yeah, I think that's where as the recipient of that, right? Like the last thing we want is an excuse or a reason. Right. What we're looking for at that moment is, acceptance, like, yeah, I messed up.
Right.
Because like, I agree with you. That's what we mean earlier when we're like, what's the difference between a reason and an excuse?
Yeah.
Right. Like if you're late for something in this, if it's like a one-time deal, a one-off where something, crazy outside of the norm happened.
Yeah.
That's life. We get it. It happens. But if you're consistently, like you said, 15 minutes late to things,
right.
There's no excuse for that. There's the reason why you're late is because you clearly don't manage your time well.
You didn't want to do it.
Yeah. Like you were either defiant or extremely optimistic in your ability to get things done. Like, either way, that's on you. Like, the world didn't do it. You just did not do it right.
That's it.
And that's from the recipient. I think that's where the line comes into play as far as the difference between a reason and an excuse.
Right.
Right. Like to me, if I'm the recipient, right, if I'm trying to hold somebody accountable, the line between excuse and reason is it reasonable or not?
Right.
Could it have been avoided? Is it reasonable to avoid it, or was it unavoidable? If I don't know, if lightning struck a telephone pole and it landed right in front of your car and you got stuck there, nothing you can do about that, man. Like, that sucks. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm glad you finally made it here. Normal everyday traffic stopped you. Like, that's on you. You should have known that ahead of time, or my clothes weren't dry, so I had to, that's on you. You should have planned ahead of time. You know how long it takes to dry, whatever it is, whatever the excuse. So I think that's how obviously that's judgment on my end, right? Like, I don't know their life. I just,
you're allowed to judge a little bit.
Yeah, of course. Oh, I didn't say I wasn't going to do it. I'm just labeling it. I'm judging.
You're just
I'm just calling it what it is. It's judgment, but I feel fully entitled to make that judgment.
Right.
But yeah, I'm going to make a judgment call on whether I feel it's reasonable or not. Like, I'm going to try to put myself in those shoes and think, all right, was that legitimately avoidable or was it unavoidable? And if it was avoidable, I don't care what you say. I want to hear, I'm sorry. Yeah. And if it was avoidable, if it wasn't avoidable, then I empathize and that sucks. And let's just move on.
Yeah. I mean, hangover, cigarettes, and coffee. 3 excuses people make all the time. Well, because they had a hangover, so it's their fault, right? Oh. So I'm dragging today. I'm just dragging.
Yeah.
I'm dragging, right? The other one is you get in the car, and look, when I used to smoke cigarettes, and I would get in the car, and like you knew how long I knew that if the trip was 30 minutes, that's like a 2-cigarette drive, right? So it's like if I got in the car and I only had one, and I knew it was a 2-cigarette drive, I don't care how late I'm going to be. I got to get that thing because I'm not going to be in the car frustrated doing 1 cigarette and a 2-cigarette drive, right? and then coffee is another one. If for some reason you didn't make coffee from your house and you knew you had to stop at Starbucks, you're going to blame Starbucks. But Starbucks is always slow. That line, everybody's there in that line.
Yeah.
You chose to be late because you're like, no, I'm getting my Starbucks. I'm getting my coffee.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why I say that.
Well, those
cigarettes and coffee. I mean, those
the cigarette thing I laugh at because I've heard the cigarette, like, it used to piss me off, if I'm honest, man. Back when I was working, and like these cigarette breaks, like I would get like 2 10-minute breaks, but old boy working next to me would get like 8 cigarette breaks. It's like, hold up, man, why am I being punished because I don't have a nicotine addiction? Like, that is not cool. But the thing I always found funny was cigarette smokers in particular that I was around at that time in my life would have a million excuses on why they couldn't do certain things because it was just too hard or this or time, whatever it was. But rain, sleet, snow, hurricane, I don't care. You could put the smoking area a block away.
Yep.
They will always get their cigarette break in.
Yep.
I've seen so many people huddled in the pouring rain in a little corner trying to get their little drags in. It's like, really? Is it that serious? Which obviously it is, but so I don't want those people. I don't want to hear excuses, man, because
those people.
Yes, those people.
I'm sure that's a protected class, Trinity.
Not anymore, man. Like, aren't they like universally hated now?
Yeah, everybody's allowed to hate on them.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
There's like walls between people in
right.
restaurants now.
Yeah. And by the way, for those of you that do drugs or alcohol, you don't even need an excuse. You just make excuse. I was tired. I worked really hard. I'm celebrating. I'm mourning. I got angry. She made me upset. My boss did it. You don't even need a reason to get drunk or get high. You may look for reasons, but you really don't need a reason. So that we don't really believe you, right? Because we all know, no matter what, whether it was a high or a low, you just wanted to get high. It's all right. Just say that. I wanted to get high today, so I got high. I wanted to drink today, so I drank. You didn't need a reason. So the last one. How do we stop making excuses, Trinity? How do we stop it?
Accountability, man. I think accountability, it starts with the desire. It starts with an acknowledgement of, hey, this is a problem. This is something that's within my ability to control. And the people that I'm hurting, be it myself or others, mean enough to me to make an effort to stop. I think that's where it starts. Obviously, where it goes from there is there's different apparatuses, like you said. There's apps, there's calendars. There's all these tools that we have. But I think it starts with an acceptance of this is a problem and I need to stop.
So you got to admit it.
Yes.
You got to acknowledge it.
Yes.
You got to know that it's an issue, that it's a problem.
Yep.
And you got to know that no matter what excuse you're making, that is not the reason. There is a reason, but typically it's not the story that you're telling. It's a different story, the one you're not telling, the one that says, maybe the reason that you're feeling like I didn't value you is maybe I'm not. Maybe the hard fact is that I'm thinking of myself more than you, but that's really hard to say because I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be the selfish person, but yeah, maybe you're right. I am behaving selfishly. Maybe I think that I put you first, but no, maybe I just put what I want first and I don't put you first. But me thinking or saying that I put you first is like, I'm believing it. But my actions are showing you that I put me first instead of you first. See, these are the things that in order to stop doing something, you have to be really brutally honest. And look, this is what I love about the 12-step programs out there, the AA, the NA, let me say it differently, Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, all the Anonymouses out there, is that it puts you in a situation where you're brutally honest with yourself. Because when you say sentences like that, when you call yourself out and you're around people that create I hesitate to even sound too much 2023, a safe environment to call yourself out in, And they call you out as well, but they do it out of love, not out of hate, not out of hurt. They do it because they've done it themselves. It helps you heal. Yeah. And when you heal that part of you that's just hurting others, then the people around you can really appreciate it. Because let me tell you something, you're not just hurting others by doing drugs, by drinking, by whatever maladaptive behavior got you in that room in the first place, or whatever led to the problem in the first place. It's all the other stuff that comes with it. Look, people don't care if you do drugs. People don't care that you drink. They care with the way you behave when you drink and drug and do all that stuff. It's the behaviors that accompany it with it. And one of them is you make excuses for everything. You're late for everything. You don't show up. It's not you. You're not there. And then when someone tries to ask you, are you okay, or why you didn't do it, you pop off with all kinds of wild stories, and you want everybody to buy into your crap. And it's just crap. And we know it, but we love you. So we're trying to tell it to you rather than just walk away from you and never see you again. But eventually, that's what we have to do to live and survive our own. So those are things that I think are universal. I think we all do it.
Yep.
But in order to stop doing it, we have to do that step one that people do within the rooms of the anonymouses, and that's, you have to admit that you're doing it. You have to admit that it's a problem. It's a problem for you, and it's a problem for everything around you. It's disturbing your life. It's making your life unmanageable. And if you continue to do it, nobody's going to ever trust you. They may not even tell you. They're just not going to be your friends. They're not going to be trusting you. They're not going to be inviting you to things. They're not going to want to hang around with you. And you're going to make stories in your head about why that is. You're going to tell people, oh, it's because I'm too honest. Or I tell that person the truth and they don't want to hear it. No, that's not why. It's because they don't feel good about themselves around you, because you make them question how you feel about them all the time because of the way you behave. It's like you constantly put less value on them, and they just can't sit around with your personality disorder over and over again and be okay with it. It's just too frustrating and annoying. You're just too annoying of a person. So why be around you?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, isn't that, I mean, we all have people around us that are very annoying, so we're not around them. But instead of calling them or telling them, hey, you're annoying, you're not even going to get it. So why am I even going to tell you that? I'm just not going to be around you ever.
Yeah, it's not worth the hassle.
It's not worth it at all. And so stopping doing something as hard as making excuses. You have to acknowledge that we all make it. And that's why I like starting it off with that, the way we started off the show in the first place. We all do it. We all make excuses. We all give stories when we don't have to give a story. And we all have stories. And some of them are fantastic stories. But maybe they don't always need to go into such detail. Anyway, Trinity, we got to get up off out of here. So what's what is some ways that people can listen to our other shows, follow us, do all that other stuff?
Yeah, as always, you can check us out on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch under Dope and Dharma. And you can listen to us on any of the major podcasting platforms under Dope and Dharma. And you can follow us on social media. He is at the Dope Doctor, and I'm at the Dharma Guy.
That's right. And thank you, Shaw, for being the producer over there at WOKB 1680 AM in Orlando and 100.7 FM in Orlando. Thank you very much. I know we got the All Goods coming up after us, I'm sure. So hopefully they do well. But if we're done, are you done, Trinity? You got anything left to say?
That's it.
I got nothing left to say. And then, tomorrow, do you already know the topic we're talking about tomorrow on Dharma Time?
I do not, but I'm sure I'll have one.
All right. Stay tuned. Tomorrow we'll have a topic on Dharma Time. Adios, amigos. It's time for a taco. Goodbye.